Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and welcome. We're excited about the opportunity to present our key findings and the implications that we see for broadband providers from this our current issue, which is our year-end analysis of broadband data usage. Hi, I'm Larry Siegel. I'll be serving as host and moderator, and I'm joined today by our founder and CEO at OpenVault, Mark Trudeau. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Larry. Thanks. Happy to be here.
In addition to our look at the trends that we see based on usage of broadband networks as a result of our deployed network optimization solutions, we're going to take a deeper dive into usage of DOCSIS networks compared to fiber. This is the first time look that we've done for this. Now, as you may know, OpenVault provides AI-powered proactive network maintenance tools through our Vantage solution that helps broadband providers reduce mean time to repair and deliver quantifiable results that strengthens operators' bottom lines. Our award-winning Vantage P&M uses AI to transform telemetry into actionable intelligence that empowers operators and the operations of networks and customer-facing personnel to detect and repair imminent and emergent network issues. The result of our solution is more resilient networks, reduced cost, and superior broadband quality of experience that can reduce churn by improving reliability and issue resolution. Now, these numbers that we'll be talking about today, along with the insights we'll review, are from our fourth quarter release of our OpenVault Broadband Insights Report, or OVBI. This data comes directly from our suite of solutions and keep broadband networks as healthy as possible. We urge you to go to our website, openvault.com, and download your copy now. If you have questions as we go, please put them in the Q&A box and we'll address it if we can, and if not, we'll certainly get back to you. So now let's dive right into it and talk about our key findings. Mark, please take us through them.
Great. Thanks, Larry. Okay, let's get right into the numbers here. So, we continue to see growth. No surprise. We've been talking about this for years and years. Total usage growth in the fourth quarter grew 9.9%, which is consistent with the growth rates we've seen. Again, these are kind of post-COVID growth rates, right? As we've talked about a few times on previous webinars and in our reports, we saw very, very high growth during COVID. That growth kind of stabilized, but we never reverted back to pre-COVID levels. So we do continue to grow. On the downstream, 9.1%, and a big focus of today's webinar here is on the upstream, growing at 21.7% and seemingly accelerating. So this is something to keep an eye on, and we'll talk a lot more about that as we go through the deck here. Median usage also accelerating in terms of the whole customer base using more. It's not just a few subscribers dragging up the average. So again, on the median front, 15.3% growth of median usage is far exceeding the growth of average usage. So again, it just tells us that we're not talking about a few abusive users here that are driving up overall usage. It's actually the entire customer base when we see median growing at a faster rate than average usage. So something to keep an eye on. I think what it does is it just tells us that usage behavior is changing across the customer base. So it's even more important, I think, when we see growth like that as far as median usage growth, to really pay attention to that, because that can have significant impacts on operator networks. Again, just a comparison here of upstream versus downstream growth. Downstream, as you see, is very stable. A very stable growth curve there. Upstream growth continues to outweigh downstream growth, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. It's a build it and they will come scenario, right? A lot of operators are spending a lot of time, effort, and money expanding capacity on the upstream side, and the usage is following that. So there's clearly pent up demand, which again, when we look at how this compares to fiber, we're going to see it's going to prove itself out here that the demand is there, and as capacity grows, subscribers are going to follow with their usage patterns. So again, upstream, has been a big focus of ours for a while now, because this seems to be an area that certainly the DOCSIS operators are very focused on. We need to optimize and constantly optimize upstream performance, particularly as DOCSIS 3.1 and eventually 4.0 is deployed. We need to keep noise out of the upstream and do everything we can to help operators identify where there's impairments on the upstream, because subscribers can certainly be negatively impacted in a big way if the plant is not healthy on the upstream. So upstream will continue to be a focus. And then the last bullet there, again, we'll share some cool data around how the observation of the fiber networks versus DOCSIS. So this is what really we're saying, is that if you look at the chart here, we see significantly higher upstream usage on fiber networks. Now, we all know that, a lot of the fiber networks offerings are symmetrical speeds downstream and upstream, where today that's not feasible or possible in a lot of the DOCSIS networks. And what this tells us is there is pent up demand, right? If you have and offer faster speeds on the upstream, subscribers are going to use more. So I think this is really important as DOCSIS operators are planning for further upgrades and further better speed offerings on the upstream. You need to be prepared that you expand the pipe. The usage is going to fill that pipe pretty quickly. So we were really fascinated when we saw this, when we made these observations in the data that we're collecting, because this is obviously pretty telling. I mean, you're talking almost double the upstream usage if the bandwidth's there and available.
Thanks, Mark. So let's take a moment and dig into the upstream story and talk about that for a bit. A couple of thoughts for you. Because 21.7% year-over-year growth is a number that should get every operator's attention, what does that actually mean for networks that were designed around a download-heavy world?
Well, it means that upstream is becoming more important in the household. We know that gaming is huge. These types of Zoom calls are contributors as well. There are lots of, with telework, a lot of people working from home, doing file uploads, things like that. Upstream is becoming a more and more important part of the experience for subscribers. Not to mention, AI and content creation. As these AI tools become more prominent and prevalent in everyday use, a lot of subscribers are using it for content creation and then uploading things, uploading videos, uploading content. So upstream is becoming more of a focus. And, again, for the DOCSIS operators, it's something they really need to pay attention to. I know they are. All of our customers are focused on upstream, and we're talking to them about our network health solutions. Almost every first conversation and the questions that we get are around upstream. And so they know that that's an issue. They know the sensitivity of the network, again, to noise and impairments and such. So this is why we as a business are so focused on network health and with a big emphasis on the upstream. As I said before, I think that we need to be prepared as a cable broadband industry that as we continue to expand capacity, the usage is already there. It's already kind of waiting for the extra capacity, right? So operators have done such a great job of future-proofing their networks on the downstream side, where we know that subscribers can't even use some of the speeds that are available. we're kind of where we are with upstream, where we used to be with downstream in the early versions of DOCSIS, right? Where you had a lot of pent-up demand, and as soon as you increase speeds, usage exploded. We're there now with upstream as well, it appears. And I think when we see the comparison of DOCSIS to fiber, it's just very, very telling as to how subscriber usage behavior is changing and the demand that's out there on the upstream.
Well, in comparison of DOCSIS and fiber, which we've done the first time in this report, is that demand more a fiber story in terms of availability, or is it a suppressed demand story from the cable side?
I think it's both, right? I mean, I think you can see that there is a strong correlation now between the speed that's available and the usage that we're observing. And clearly, if the speed is available, subscribers are using it, which tells us that when the speed and the capacity is not there on the upstream for the cable broadband providers, that they're being tamped down, right? They're bumping up against the available capacity. And we see that just by looking at utilization levels and things in the networks, right? Particularly when there's also, again, impairments in the network that further constrains the available capacity and resiliency of the network. So, yeah, absolutely. I think the answer is yes to both of those things. So we're seeing demand being suppressed on the cable broadband side, and we're seeing when there is available capacity on the upstream that subscribers will take advantage of that.
Well, speaking of impairments and congestion, when we talk about upstream congestion, the instinct is to look at peak hours and hotspots. But given what we're seeing in the data, should operators be rethinking how they even measure upstream health, and what tools are actually available to help them get ahead of it?
Well, there's a number of tools. Yes, they should be thinking about it. It's not as simple as just you looking at utilization levels. We as a business have really leaned into our network, our proactive network maintenance solutions, as well as our profile management applications. So that, look, impairments are going to happen, right? These networks are living, breathing things. So when there is an impairment, capacity is constrained, DOCSIS 3.1 modems get knocked off the OFDMA. It just creates all kinds of problems. So we as a business are very focused, and one of our biggest growth vehicles where we see the biggest demand from operators is in two areas, right? Help us identify where there's impairments and prioritize those impairments based on the number of subscribers being impacted at a given time. And then also, what can we do to work around those impairments until they can be resolved and fixed? And that's where PMA does such a good job of making sure that the optimal modulation profiles are applied to the modems, because a lot of the network elements themselves, in light of an impairment, can knock everybody's modulation profiles down to really a least common denominator approach. So you have a couple things happening. You have DOCSIS 3.1 modems again falling off the OFDMA and now causing congestion on the SC-QAM side of the network. You also just see a reduction in overall available bandwidth. So by optimizing modulation profiles, you can get those modems back on the 3.1 part of the network and really increase capacity significantly, not just for those 3.1 customers, but now you're easing congestion for those that might still be on the 3.0 part of the network. So it really adds, it's working around the impairment and providing the optimal service for the most customers that you can. And so these are solutions that I think particularly right now, given the competition with fiber, given the need for operators to have a healthy upstream plant in order to compete, they're absolutely the right solution at the right time, and we're excited to be able to bring this to the market.
Great. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue. But for now, let's continue with our analysis and insights and move into speed tiers and see what we're seeing there.
Yeah, so here, we see the highest speed tiers being fairly consistent. We're now over a third of subscribers that are leveraging gig service. Again, as we talked about, Not a lot of those subscribers can actually use that speed, but it was a great thing to do from a marketing perspective for operators. And not just from a marketing perspective, it does provide headroom and future-proofing your network so that subscribers that do end up needing more bandwidth have it available to them. One of the things that we did see is that speed is no longer kind of a competitive discussion too much anymore. Once operators got to the gig speed, that was what subscribers were looking for. And it was great for DOCSIS operators to be able to compete with fiber with that gig story. Now it's all about network health, right? So we've got plenty of speed offerings here, but if the network's not healthy, we're not delivering the speeds that we're promising and that subscribers are paying for. That's when we run into customer experience, quality of experience problems. You can see on the bottom right, the light blue there, 5.2%, 2.8, 4.6. Fewer and fewer subscribers have lower bandwidth plans today. Very small percentage, right? I do think operators should continue to look for that though, and take advantage of ARPU opportunities there, because subscribers may not, they signed up years ago. They may not even realize that there are faster speeds out there for maybe not a lot more monthly of a monthly fee, and they can certainly get a better experience. So there's still ARPU growth opportunity for sure. But from a speed perspective, speed is just becoming less and less of an issue. Another thing I will mention is we have operators that, are offering 2 gig service and the take rate on that has been very, very limited. So again, it tells us that once we got to parity by talking gig speed, as a cable broadband industry, that's really where we needed to get to. We're there. So now the focus has to be again on network health. Yeah, this is an interesting stat. We talk about percentages, and percentages are dangerous a lot of times, right? As the denominator has grown here with total gigabyte usage, we've seen the percentage growth maybe not look as crazy as it was in the past, but in relative terms, when you really look at just the amount of gigabytes being consumed, we see more and more gigabytes being consumed every quarter, as you can see there. So, when it comes to total data consumption, the growth is still pretty aggressive. So it is dangerous again to look at percentages. We see this kind of growth, as we talked about before. We see median growth really on the rise significantly. So I think this is something to keep an eye out for. The higher the denominator, it's going to be harder to maintain really high percentage growth. But in relative pure gigabyte count, from that perspective, we continue to see pretty substantial growth quarter over. Yeah, that's kind of just what we talked about. I think that you asked the question before about peak time. That's obviously critical. Operators need to understand what's happening at peak, and averages themselves are dangerous. But it's really important that we pay attention to how overall customer behavior is changing. And, peak times are shifting a little bit too, and we'll probably have more on that in upcoming OVBIs. But again, the work from home, schooling from home, the popularity of some of that can shift what we view as peak times and peak hours. And the other thing I will say is, again, back to kind of network health, impairments can cause capacity constraints. So what might have been a peak time before, now you're seeing, due to impairments, a lot of congestion that might be just due to that impairment. So this is something you can't just think about what happens during peak hours. You have to think about what happens every hour of every day across your network.
Well, thanks. Now, the first bullet talks about planning and about the meaningful planning signal. Let's talk about planning and network optimization, have a discussion around that. A couple thoughts for you about that. From a planning perspective, as we talked about, how are operators using usage and experience data today to prioritize upgrades or adjust service tiers instead of just throwing more bandwidth everywhere?
Well, I think the operators are getting better and better at leveraging all the data that's available coming out of the network and being able to correlate, the network health data with subscriber usage behavioral data, with customer care data, phone calls, truck rolls, all of these things. There's a real opportunity to leverage all of this data uh, to provide a better quality of experience for subscribers. And at the end of the day, ideally, find issues before they become customer impacting, right? And that's our story, right? That's what we're all about is helping to resolve issues based on the data that we're collecting before the customer ever sees that there's a problem. So I think that the really smart operators are leveraging as much of the data as they can possibly leverage. Uh, we're a big part of that for a lot of our operator customers. And you kind of need to look at this holistically. I think we've talked in the past that, we've seen disconnects and silos for years and years, right? Where we've had operators really pushing, we talk about pushing gig service out there, sales and marketing for the operators doing a great job. But in fact, these parts of the network maybe are congested or they're dealing with all kinds of network health issues. So what happens in that case? You're upgrading subscribers and they're not going to get what they're paying for. They're very unhappy, and that's a customer care issue and a churn problem for you. So being able to correlate all this data together and leverage it in a cross-functional way, in a smart way, is absolutely what operators, the most successful operators that we see, that's what they're doing. I think I've given this example as well in maybe previous either reports or webinars, but we've had customers that have congestion on their network, but they're offering fast speeds, they're offering all these things to subscribers. And then we have operators that haven't invested as much in their network capacity and being able to offer as fast as speeds, but they're actually a healthier business because the network that they have, they're really focused on network health and they don't have congestion because of the tools that they're using. Well, the operator that spent all the money to increase capacity and expand their network and all of this has 50% more churn than the operator that hasn't put forth that effort, but instead is focused very much on network health and leveraging the data available in their network. So it's super important. We always talk to operators that spend all this time and effort, CapEx dollars and everything, expanding and upgrading their networks, but you can't stop there. You have to make sure the network is clean and healthy in order to fully optimize that spend.
Well, that takes me to my next question. You have mentioned that operators have made massive investments in their networks, whether it's DOCSIS 3.0, 3.1, 4.0 upgrades, 3.1 plus, and as well as fiber builds. It still seems that operators, for the most part, are reactive when it comes to addressing issues that they see. So what's missing between all that investment and actually improving the experience for both operators and customers?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've talked in one of our best products or lead products in the market is our proactive network maintenance tool, right? Unfortunately, a lot of operators are still using it in a reactive way. And I think that leveraging AI and agentic AI is a great way to shift the narrative and the solutions to being truly more proactive. And what I mean by that is, look, for many years, operators just said, look, tell me where I have issues, tell me where I have impairments, tell me where I have customers that are offline or, partial service, whatever it is you're looking for, tell us that. By definition, that's reactive, right? And I've talked to a lot of operators of late where the operators themselves are saying, don't show me dashboards anymore. Dashboards are arguably going to be dead soon because what dashboards are just a picture of something that's happened in the past. Sure, we've collected the data. The data is important. it's important to be able to show what's going on in the network. Well, let's use agentic AI to actually leverage that data and take proactive action before the customer actually ever has an issue, right? And maybe even correlate that with weather data and see that, okay, well, we have some weather coming into the area, so there's some things we can do to tighten up, lock down the network, keep it healthy, because we know that this weather situation is going to cause issues here, here, and here. Right. So being able to leverage the data and taking advantage of agentic AI. So where your future dashboards are going to be basically, tell me what agentic AI did. Tell me what actions were taken automatically by leveraging our AI platform to resolve issues so that customers never see it. So I think there is a shift. I do think agentic AI and some of the things that we're doing are going to shift us more towards being able to be truly proactive. And I'm excited for that, because I think for the cable broadband space, it's the only way to really compete with fiber, and is to make sure we're doing those types of proactive initiatives.
Are there any other roles you see for AI in the future, not just operations, but in the field or in customer care?
Well, the future is now, right? I mean, this stuff is here. It's moving at warp speed, and there's other vendors. This is not a sales pitch, right? But I mean, we have our AI help desk, which also includes a lot of actions that can be taken. Basically, what we're doing is we're taking let's talk about field technicians. We're taking what a junior field technician. We're taking that person and we're turning him into a senior experienced field technician, right? With the information at their fingertips, with the ability to take an action to basically tell me everything about this modem, right? And you're going to get everything, as well as here's the solution and here's exactly what you need to do to resolve this customer issue. And that's if there's something physical that needs to be done. If it's something that can be done through our agentic AI platform, then it's going to automatically be done, right? But again, I think you bring, look, a lot of, particularly in DOCSIS, we don't have a lot of people graduating from college today saying, I want to be a DOCSIS field technician, right? That's just not happening. So how do you get field technicians, younger folks that are coming into the market? Number one, how do you reduce the need for truck rolls and as many field technicians? But for those that are there, how do you give them the tools so that they can truly be productive in the market and get up to speed much, much faster? And that includes customer care too, right? We have our AI help desk. We've got some interesting data on the questions being asked of it, right? Which I think we're going to continue to track and probably share some of that in future OVBIs as well. It's fascinating to see the kinds of questions that the field technicians are out there asking of the tool. And it tells you that, number one, they're starving for information. They're starving for, what the root cause is of an issue or how to fix it. And they've never had these kind of tools at their disposal before. So I think it's, this whole thing is moving very, very fast, but, the future is definitely now when it comes to how can you leverage these AI tools. They're here. They're getting better every single day, and we're excited about that.
Great, thanks. Well, let's bring that together and take a look at our solutions which directly affect network performance in the manner that you're talking about. Mark?
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked about a number of these solutions. We are very, very focused on, as I said, network health, helping not just DOCSIS providers, but we've also been working very hard with our fiber business to pull forward some of the same tools that we've built in DOCSIS into the fiber realm, particularly proactive network maintenance. A lot of operators of our DOCSIS operators that also now offer and have built fiber networks have asked us to provide the same suite of capabilities and tools in the fiber space. So we're about to make some pretty exciting announcements there of some new tools. But all operators seem to be very focused on proactive network maintenance, which is great. We do know from specific operators that case studies are outstanding in terms of your return on investment, the efficiencies that are gained from your field technician group, customer care, calls into customer, all those metrics that everybody talks about. It's real. There are real benefits, real savings there. PMA, again, as I mentioned, allows you to work around your impairments and kind of once it's set up and once you see the kind of value that it brings every day by managing and optimizing your network, it's one of those things where you're going to set it and forget it, except every now and then you're going to want to look and see, here's all the good things it's doing for you as an operator. So that is one of our most popular products right now, and it's vendor agnostic. Most of the operators here on this call have a multi-CMTS environment, virtual CMTS environment, maybe they're moving to. We work with all the CMTS vendors. So, you can be assured that regardless of what your decisions are today, what your network looks like, or what your future decisions are, we're future-proofing the solution as well, because we do work across all those vendors. And now we work across access networks as well, both DOCSIS and fiber. Congestion Manager is one of those that we've had in the market for a long time. It seems to be getting more popular again because we do still see abusive subscribers sometimes that can, in a shared network, cause negative issues for others. And the ability to take action on them when there is congestion on the network to effectively provide fair use and better service to more customers is again becoming somewhat of a popular solution to manage that congestion. So these are three solutions that we've wrapped up in our Vantage solution suite umbrella. And Vantage, the nice thing about Vantage is it comes with a single data polar, a single behind the scenes database, a single UI. So it appears as a single solution. You can have each one individually, or you can have it all, but it makes your migration path as you adopt these other solutions much easier. And it certainly provides, again, a single pane of glass, which we know a lot of operators are looking for.
Oh, terrific. Thanks for that overview. And this brings us to our Q&A. We did get about 5 questions that came in. And you were talking about PMA, so let's get right to it. 2 questions around PMA. The first one is, can PMA help mask some of the underlying impairments in the network?
I mean, that's what it does, right? I mean, it masks it, but let's not kid ourselves, right? These impairments need to be fixed. So it's still going to, you're still going to be able to see that there are impairments. When PMA is working properly, it's changing the modulation profiles of those subscribers impacted by impairments, which means there's an impairment somewhere, right? Which is why PNM and PMA go so nicely together, right? The ability to say, hey, we worked around an impairment. Now I need to know where that impairment is specifically and how many subscribers it's impacting, so I can prioritize my field technician's day and go right to the root cause. So these solutions work very well. But yeah, that's exactly what PMA does, is it works around the inevitable impairments that exist in the DOCSIS plan.
Now, this may be somewhat repetitive, but I want to honor the question. And the question is, how does PMA actually work to increase capacity?
Well, again, when there is an impairment, a lot of the CMTS vendors will basically take the modulation profile down for impacted subscribers to a very low modulation profile, or a suboptimal, I will say, modulation profile, which is a proxy for bandwidth, right, and throughput. So what we do is we're collecting all of that data constantly, and our algorithms are able to identify that, hey, this set of modems can actually support a higher modulation profile, i.e. higher bandwidth. So then we go ahead and we automatically apply those profiles, and the available capacity then just increases for those subscribers. And again, if they've been knocked off the 3.1 network, they rebound to the OFDMA channel, and it opens up capacity for everybody else as well. So while we talk about up to maybe 40%, and we have seen that 40% increase in capacity for 3.1 subscribers, you can get 100% more capacity for the 3.0 customers just by getting those, just through that resiliency, right? And getting them back on the 3.1 side of the house. So the massive capacity gains and resiliency, those are really the two main selling points and benefits of PMA.
Moving to the kind of data that we've been pulling and reporting, have we been able to isolate residential and commercial traffic stats?
We have. I think we might have had some stats in a previous OVBI where we broke that out, but we will definitely take that note and see what we can do in future OVBIs, or if you want to reach out to us directly, whoever asked that question, we'd be happy to share what we can on that front.
Okay. Around AI, question came in. What type of actions can your agentic AI platform perform?
Really, all kinds of actions from you're rebooting a modem, you're scanning the modem, you're looking for impairments, and basically, again, as I said, you could just tell me everything about this modem, and it's going to tell you, do you have upstream issues? Do you have downstream issues? What are the issues? It's really powerful, right? So we like to say that, we're the toolkit for our agentic AI tools, right? It's not the other way around. We are actually, because of all the hooks we have in the network, because of our ability to identify impairments and take action in an automated way, we've got all this toolkit that then we can allow agentic AI to go actually automate a lot of these fixes, right? So there's just a ton of different things that our agentic AI tool can do, so that we don't have to do it manually. And as I said before, ideally we're doing that and taking those actions before any field technician needs to be, or a truck needs to be rolled, or the customer is impacted. So it's really powerful. I would encourage you, if you're asking that question, I don't want to give away too much, but if you'd like to see a product demo or something on a separate call, we'd be happy to dive into the details on that.
Okay. You hinted around some of the questions field agents are receiving through the AI help desk. Are you in a position to share any of them?
I'm not sure that they're statistically significant just yet. We continue to track it, but just things like, what is full band capture? Actually, I'll give you a couple of others because I have it here. What is a correlation group, right? So we have a part of our product is identifying correlation groups. So modems that are experiencing similar characteristics, similar behavior in the network. This helps us identify whether the impairment is in the home or in the outside plant. And if it's an entire group in a neighborhood that's experiencing the same thing, we know it's probably an outside plant issue, and then we can pinpoint what that issue is. So that's one of the questions that field technicians ask. If there's many modems are correlated, where should I start troubleshooting? What's a suck out? What's the difference between a standing wave and multiple resonant peaks? These are all things that field technicians these are the questions that they're asking. And again, now you could see how you could take a junior field technician and give them these kind of tools to get up to speed much faster and really become a senior field technician in no time. So those are just some examples of the kind of questions that we're getting through that platform.
Terrific. Thank you. Those are all our questions. And as you can see, our OVBI is generated from the data that we have access to through our solution set. This comes out every quarter. If you don't have yours yet, go download it now while you can. It's always available on our website. And I see that's it for the questions. Thank you very much for your time, Mark. Thanks for your overview and answering the questions. It was great chatting with you about this, and have a great day.
Thanks, Lark.